It's Workout Wednesday! It's Workout Wednesday. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing Wednesday. I hope your Wednesday is going amazing, and if it ain't, don't let the beginning of this Wednesday stop the rest of your Wednesday. And seeing that is double dubs for the Workout Wednesday, I gotta tell you something about my workout. It's been a little bit different. Coach Devin has, I gotta admit to him, he's been switching it up. But one thing that has been huge for me is something that we can all do: walking. Last week, something really interesting happened to me. My car broke down. Temporarily, it just needed a new thermostat and water pump, but that actually put me out of driving for some time. That's when I started to realize that, hey, either I'm going to have to go to the gym, some way or another, I could get a ride, which I did from a good friend of mine. But then afterward, I was like, why don't I just walk? It is a 2-mile trip there, a 2-mile trip back. I used to walk 5 miles a day. So in between me going to the gym, at the gym, and back from the gym, that's about 5 miles. Why not do that? And that's exactly what I set out to do. Every day I went to the gym, I woke up pretty much at the same time and walked to the gym, worked out, and then walked home. I can't tell you how amazing I felt after working out, and I know it's going to pay dividends into the future. Walking has easily become a staple into my workout regimen, just like how these staple cards should probably be a staple inside of your main deck regimen. That's right, so today I'm going to be going over that staples tier list that you so covet. We're going to be talking about the cards that you better be caught with it, all the way down to the, oh no, what are you doing, baby? If you were playing these staple cards, then you might as well just give your opponent the win. Also, I wanted to mention real quick that if you want to catch TheCaliEffect, I'm actually streaming on Twitch at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to see less PG Cali and get real with them, I think we're opening either a case of Burst of Destiny, or we already opened the case and we're like doing something with Burst of Destiny. So go ahead and catch me then. With all that being said, let's jump on into this tier list so we could talk about these staples. Okay, so as you know, we have 5 different tiers here. Better be caught with it being the cards that you should be playing. Look, I'd rather be judged by 12 than to be carried by 6. More often than not, these are the cards that should be in your main board or your sideboard. Very good cards are not necessarily cards that you better be caught with, but these cards are astoundingly good in the current meta. From there, we have performers. These cards are the underrated category that we used to have, or cards that just do really well. You really need to watch out for those performer cards, because these cards are average cards that can be played in any deck, and then some cards that players wouldn't think is necessarily good enough to be played. Could be better does not mean that it is a bad card. Could be better means that it's in a situation where it could be better. That's pretty much it. But as you guys should already know, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Now that is a Yu-Gi-Oh card that if you're playing, you're probably giving your opponent the buy, the free win. Now, before I get deeper into this, I just wanted to find what exactly is a staple. A staple is a Yu-Gi-Oh card that can be played in the main board or the sideboard, and it is fairly generic and a lot of decks can play it. I decided not to use the pot cards for these staples like Pot of Extravagance, Pot of Prosperity, Pot of Duality, strictly because those cards are so specific on the particular deck, you can't necessarily rate any of them being good or bad, because if your deck can play it, it probably should. Now, before I explain all of the staples that we have listed here, let's talk about the particular meta, as that's actually going to dictate where these cards go. We're in a very interesting meta. If you were to ask me, I would say the top 3 decks would be Shadow, it would be Sword Soul, and it would still be Tri-Brigade. I think that those are some of the top 3 decks of the format, but if you want to see me go into detail about the top 5 decks, go ahead and let me know, and we'll do one really soon. But with that being said, we go into a format where there is negation inside of this format. Drytron, also Sword Soul, and a couple of other strategies are really good at putting Omni negations on the field. Phantom Knight also isn't far behind, so we're going to have to address those, and single point of interaction may not be as powerful right now, but some cards work. Let's take, for example, Blizzard. I'm going to go ahead and put Blizzard into the performer category. Now, keep in mind, the performer category is a mixture of cards that just do well and cards that you didn't think would do well that do well. So it's a mixture of between cards that are good and underrated.
Blizzard is really good because it hits cards like Lightning Storm, Forbidden Droplet, Triple Tactics Talent. It hits those really powerful spell cards that your opponent is trying to use to win the game and forces them on a reset. The reason why that is so powerful right now is because if you can follow up on your next turn and win the game, them adding that card back to their hand does not matter. Blizzard is a really good card in the correct situation, in the correct strategies that will lose to cards like Lightning Storm, but if your opponent just so happens to be reset for a turn, you could win the game. I'm going to also put Book of Eclipse into the Performers category. Whoa! 2 underrated cards, and we've only started this Staples tier list like, what, 5 minutes ago? Oh, man. Book of Eclipse is a really good Yu-Gi-Oh card. It flips monsters face up, face down, preventing your opponent from Exceed, linking, from synchro summoning. It doesn't prevent them from fusion summoning and ritual summoning, as those can often be used with face down cards, but being able to prevent 3 of the best mechanics in Yu-Gi-Oh right now is amazing. But Book of Eclipse can also be used offensively as well as defensively. Being able to flip, for the example, in the virtual world board, a Shinshin, Kaliga, and Crystal Wing face down and your opponent can't do a single thing about it is huge. Now, of course, this card will lose to an Omni Negation like Baron de Fleur, but Baron de Fleur has to use his Omni Negation on this card or all of the monsters are going to be flipped face down. So sometimes it's not a bad proposition. Book of Moon is also, oh my god, guys, Book of Moon is a performer Yu-Gi-Oh card, but you guys should already know that. Book of Moon has been dubbed as the best -1 Yu-Gi-Oh card in the game, and basically what I mean by -1, a card that doesn't necessarily net you advantage, and that's what Book of Moon does. Flipping a monster face up to face down doesn't gain you anything, and you lose 1 card because you used the Book of Moon. But it's so essential because it's a mini Book of Eclipse. It allows you to flip a monster face down that your opponent wants to use for a crucial summon. It also allows you to flip your monster face down because in the format where Effect Veiler and Infinite Impermanence are amazing, this card can allow you to escape with using your monster's effect. Really good card. Call by the Grave is going to be our first card that ya better be caught with. It's a reason why this card is limited to 1. Call by the Grave not only stops hand traps, but almost in every single matchup in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, being able to banish your opponent's monster in graveyard, preventing a monster that wants to activate its effect on hand or field, but also being able to rid that target. Let me give you an example. Against one of the worst strategies right now that this card would be for, Virtual World, you can't really hit anything for them. As some Virtual World players only play Gamma and Nibiru, there's not really going to be many hand traps you can stop. But what you can do is you can banish Lulu from the graveyard when your opponent activates Lulu in hand, and boom, you got a disruption still. This is a card that you probably should be playing in every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck that even cares about interacting with the opponent. Cosmic Cyclone is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the could be better. So when you're going against back row decks right now, Yu-Gi-Oh, we tend to have decks that play a lot of back row, or that summon negates and then have 1 back row. So Cosmic Cyclone could be good against Virtual World for getting rid of Chuchi if you can find a way to out the Crystal Wing and the Shinshin. It's not so great against Sword Soul, as yeah, they'll burn in the gate, but they still have the Sword Soul blackout. It's in a really weird spot right now where Cosmic Cyclone is probably less better than cards like Twin Twisters and Lightning Storm, just because it only hits 1 single point. And the decks that do play back row, I mean, you're going to need to hit more than 1 particular card. Dark Hole was another card that just could be better right now. I know I normally put Dark Hole in what we would call the performers or a good category, but again, the problem with Dark Hole is that it can't interact with the opponent like how Book of Eclipse or Book of Moon can, and it only performs 1 function, which is getting rid of monsters on the field. Now, don't get me wrong, that can come up in a lot of times where you want to get rid of your opponent's board. Sometimes you can catch your opponent sleeping and they don't have that Omni Negate, and you can Dark Hole their field. But more often than not, this card will just be served as a bait for Negate, or doesn't really come up as big as you want it to be. Dark Ruler no more, guys. Oh my, be caught with Dark Ruler no more right now. Again, we're in a format with Omni Negates, just multiple negations being put on the field. And for you guys, in case you didn't know what an Omni Negation is, an Omni Negation is a monster or a card that can negate a spell, trap, and monster effect. I apologize for you Yu-Gi-Oh rookies that are getting into the game for going over this jargon, but allow me to explain everything so you can get caught up and we can get you into the game. There are other type of monster negates, which typically are effect negations like Crystal Wing and Appaloosa into this meta, and that's where Dark Hole could shine. but we're called by the grave could shine, but not called by the grave. We're whoa, Dark Ruler No More could shine. But we already know Dark Ruler No More shines best in a format where players like to summon multiple monsters on their side of the field that just say negate, negate, negate. Dark Ruler No More takes away that entire board and allows you to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Dimensional Barrier, oh my gosh. If I had to put Dimensional Barrier in a spot, I'm gushing over this card because I think it's just very, very, very good. If you're playing against Sword Soul, just call Synchro. If you're playing against Phantom Knight, you can call Exceed or Fusion Summon when they want to go on a Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer. If you're playing against Virtual World, you can call Synchro or Exceed. If you're playing against Drytron, you can call Ritual. Oh man, there are endless possibilities for Dimensional Barrier. This card is very good. But one thing that I would strongly like to recommend if you're playing Dimensional Barrier, you really want to play a deck, Dimensional Barrier in a deck that can follow up. Follow up on your basically skipping your opponent's turn, because if you're just forcing your opponent to skip their turn and then you're not doing anything very progressive, this card can be really bad for your deck. Dogmatic Punishment is a card, I want to say it could be better. I thought that it was a lot better in this format than last format, mainly because we do have multiple points of interruption. I mean, this card is still technically 1 point of interruption because you can't choose when to use your Elder Entity Intis. And yes, you could send Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, but that's on another point of interruption way later. Like, for example, when I mean interruption, I mean actually being able to disrupt 2 of your opponent's cards during a certain time frame. This obviously doesn't do it. It's a card that works well for some decks. Some decks don't care about the drawback of not being able to special summon from the extra deck, like for Ruanda Reese. But it doesn't do as much as you would hope. It does a fairly good job, but it could be better. It's not in the best spot right now. Let's just put it, it's a borderline slash performer card slash could be better. It's probably the best could be better card out right now. Just because if you're playing a deck that doesn't special from the extra deck, you really don't care. You get 2 destructions on the field potentially. Evenly matches. Oh man, guys, evenly matched. Evenly matched obviously is not good against decks that put those Omni Negates on the board. But what evenly matched is amazing against is first, it's fairly good against Tri-Brigade. Secondly, it's fairly good against Fluenda Reese. Outlich is actually an amazing Yu-Gi-Oh deck right now. I don't know if you guys know that, and this card is good against it. It's so good against so many back row heavy decks. It does exactly what it was designed to do, and evenly matched is literally the card that probably should be in a lot of players' main board or sideboard. So it's borderline better be caught with slash very good cards. I'm going to put it in between that. The only thing that sucks with evenly matched is obviously you have to, use that Omni Negate. Now, evenly matched does have a partner in crime. It has an incredible partner in crime. But let me go ahead and talk about it. This is a card that you better be caught with it. I kind of understand why this card is $160 right now because, oh my God, if you guys cannot afford Forbidden Droplet, Dark Ruler No More normally is your go-to card, but Forbidden Droplet is drugs, guys. It's, oh man. Being able to send cards like, let me tell you a cool combo. You activate Evenly Matched, your opponent uses Baron de Fleur, you chain Forbidden Droplet to send the Evenly Matched to the graveyard. Ugh. So now your opponent still has to banish all their cards face down. Another thing I want to say about Evenly Matched is that if your opponent controls a token, so Sword Soul, if you force your opponent to leave the token on the field and you evenly match them, they have to keep the token. So yeah, it's disgusting how evenly matched works. And Forbidden Chalice or Droplet is a card that can play off of that, being able to work with evenly matched extremely well, and also being able to stop your opponent's board. I really want to put evenly matched into the better be caught with it because it's just that great of a card, but I think it's borderline. This allows you to address those Omni Negation boards, prevents your opponent from using cards in response, and allows you to break boards fairly easy. Forbidden Chalice is a performer. Forbidden Chalice is a very good Yu-Gi-Oh card. And this is one of the better single points of interaction because it's a quick play spell card. If you guys have not noticed, those good performers slash very good cards are quick play spell cards because not only can you interact on your turn with those single points, you can also interact on your opponent's turn. There's a really powerful Yu-Gi-Oh card called Shadal Winda, and it can't be destroyed by card effects, and it prevents players from special summoning. And this is one of the very, very cost-effective few ways to deal with that card and allow you to still play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's why this card is very, very good. Fusion Destiny. Where do we put the Fusion Destiny engine as a staple, guys? Is it, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Well, I mean, to be honest, for some decks, it really is what are you doing? This card is not designed for every single strategy as some players may have thought, but it is a card that performs very well in the decks that it does. Take, for example, Phantom Knights no longer need Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. They have Phoenix Enforcer, which is an arguably better card because it requires less bricks. It can be played at the end of your sequence when you do draw Fusion Destiny. And on top of that, it can destroy cards, which has some really cool interaction with your Phantom Knight cards. So this card's really good. Goes in Match. If you guys can play Goes in Match in your deck, play Goes in Match in your deck. Sword Soul plays an abundance of attributes. BBW Tri-Brigade plays an abundance of attributes. Even Drytron Herald plays an abundance of attributes. Shaddoll plays an abundance of attributes. Like every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck right now plays an abundance of attributes. This is probably the best Floodgate Yu-Gi-Oh card right now, just because it literally stops a lot of the top meta decks. Harpy's Feather Duster is a Yu-Gi-Oh card that could be, I'm actually going to go ahead and put it in the performers. For the same reason why Evenly Matched is good, Harpy's Feather Duster is good. The only difference is that, Evenly Matched actually gets rid of cards like fully. Well, Harpy's Feather Duster is really good against those back row heavy decks, a very solid sideboard card for some decks. You don't need it for every deck, but if your meta is comprised of back row heavy decks, then strongly consider siding that Harpy's Feather Duster. It may help you. Now, I don't think that Ice Dragon's Prison is bad. Ice Dragon's Prison is probably the second best could be better card. It's not a bad card. Again, the top meta decks would be Sword Soul. Flundereese is also fairly good, but that's not hurting them. But let's go back and talk about those two decks that I just said. They don't really care about their cards being banished. Like, this card works really well when you can banish cards from your opponent's graveyard that really hurt. Like take for example against Salomon Greats. If you banish Sunlight Wolf and they're another Sunlight Wolf, that hurts. Like that's almost like you almost win the game just off IDP. But if you do it against Sword Soul, it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like that, and you're not stopping the monster effect either. If you do it against Invoked, okay, like don't get me wrong, but it doesn't do a lot. With that being said, I'd have to say that this card is definitely could be better. I wouldn't say that it definitely performs up to par, but it's a fairly good Yu-Gi-Oh card, and you could play it if you're playing a heavy trap-based deck. Imperial Order is a card that, oh my God, guys, you can better be caught with it. This card's ridiculous. I lost to an Imperial Order so many times. Stone Jesse, I know you're watching this. You are garbage, and the only reason why you win is Imperial Order. This card wins Yu-Gi-Oh card games. We're in a format where spell cards are extremely popular and powerful right now. This card pretty much does the job for you to win games, preventing your opponent from getting back into it. Lightning Storm is very, very, very good right now. I wouldn't say that it's a better be caught with it card, but the reason why Lightning Storm is just better than Dark Hole, Raigeki, and Harpy's Feather Duster, because again, you have the option to be able to destroy your opponent's spells and trap cards. And a lot of people may not think that that option would warrant it to be better, but if you don't own Lightning Storms, get a pair of Lightning Storms or test a pair of Lightning Storms and then come back to me and you'll be like, okay, I understand what he's saying. The option to hit both is just, it's on another level right now. Mind Control. Oh no, what are you doing, baby? Look, this card isn't necessarily bad, but Link monsters aren't great. I'm not saying Link monsters are bad, but they're not 100% amazing right now. Like, if your opponent still is stuck on summoning Appaloosa Pass, and if that becomes back to the meta, this card's great. This card's amazing. But when your opponent has multi-negations with Baron de Fleur, it's like, you're just going to get negated by Baron de Fleur. We need cards that actually, like, you know, and it's a single point of interaction. It's just not a great card right now. Mystic Mine, baby. I hate to say that Mystic Mine is it, but yeah, players are starting to play Mystic Mine and they're starting to realize, because even with Baron de Fleur, there's only one, you know, hard negation. So even if, let's say if you are playing Mind Control in your main deck and you Mind Control the Baron de Fleur, they negate it, then you follow with Mystic Mine and you're like, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a amazing spot, great spot. You can actually use your ability to come back into the game, which is like, shit, that sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Mystic Mine works best in a deck where you play your own field spell. Like, so Flundereese, I guess you could play it in Dogmatica. It works in Sword Soul. It works. I've seen Sword Soul builds. Elysium actually showed me a Mystic Mind build, and I don't know if I can trust her around myself anymore. She's a good friend anymore because Mystic Mind. But it works. It works. So Mystic Mind's a fairly good Yu-Gi-Oh card. Needle Sealing could be better because by the time that you can Needle Sealing against some decks, it's a little too late. They make better on the floor or whatever. So it does suck. It's good against Virtual World. Mass Destruction cards, they're not bad. They just could be better right now because wiping your opponent's entire board, we're in a Yu-Gi-Oh game where follow-ups are normally coming afterward. Paleozoic Deinamiscus, I really want to put this into oh no, what are you doing, baby? And then again, single point of interaction banishes cards. That's really good, but single point, well, not as good as it was, but single point of interaction banishes cards requires you to discard. Not really great in a great spot right now. Same thing with Raigeki. This card also could be better. Not necessarily a bad card either. I don't think any of the, again, I don't think this battle row is bad at all, but again, Lightning Storm's way better. Rivalry of the Warlords. Sword Soul just so happens to be all worm, and so does Fluundereese. Rocket Dragon Link, another very, very, very good deck, also just happens to be all dragon. Gozen Match is superior to Rivalry of the Warlords right now. Though Rivalry could, sneak you some wins with BBW Tri-Brigade. Skill Drain is, oh man, Skill Drain's very good. If your deck can afford to play Skill Drain, then you probably should play Skill Drain. It's a free W. Solemn Judgment, it performs. The card does exactly what you want it to do. It stops your opponent's most important spells, Lightning Storm, Droplets if they don't send a trap card, and Dark Ruler no more. Card's godly. Solemn Strike, you guys already know this card performs. But where you're going to see is I am probably going to put a card that I've been ragging on for so long in a good category. Yes, I have seen the light. So this card, it stops a good amount. So this card stops spell cards, Shut Off Fusion, Pinkins Pandemonium, stuff like that. It stops really important spell cards, Drytron Mitrionis, you know what I mean? And it prevents your opponent from doing the stuff that they want to. So a lot of times when your opponent activates a spell card to special summon, that spell card allows them to do other things as well. And while Strike can stop the monster effect, we're starting to get to a point where that spell card is really important because it allows them to get so much. I wish I could think of some other cards where Warning is just really good, but Warning is best in a rogue Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and rogue Yu-Gi-Oh decks. That's where it's best at. You don't just put Warning in your deck and be okay. No, it has to go and serve a specific function. It can also stop summons, like normal summons, which is also fairly good right now. Still, I'd like if you maxed out on your strikes and you still need more than Warning. This is, oh no, what are you doing, baby? And the reason why this is, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Isn't because of it's a bad card. This card's phenomenal, but we're talking about in generic decks. In Invoke, yes, you play it. In Despia, yes, you play it. In those decks that actually have ways to make this card live, yes, you play it, of course. But you don't just play it in any deck, and that's why this is a Staples tier list, not a invoked tier list for November, even though that sounds pretty good. This card's good against Sword Soul, Flundereese, Dragon Link. It's not actually, no, this card's low-key a performer now I think about it. It's fairly good against Drytron. It doesn't really do anything against BBW. Virtual World can also play it, but it levels itself out. Torrential Tribute is also down here with Needle Sealing. Again, you're going to need better forms of interaction and wiping the whole board, especially since this format is a little bit more about board presence than ever. So yeah, you don't want to lose your board in the process. Again, these two cards are really good in their design decks. Like if you're playing it in Burning Abyss, go ahead. But as overall generic Yu-Gi-Oh card, Triple Tactics Talent is very, 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 very good. Hand traps are still really powerful. I know I went on a crusade of saying hand traps are not that great, and I may have to eat a little bit of crow here, even though we're in a new format, and I definitely flip-flop my opinion. But Triple Tactics Talent is obviously good when your opponent plays hand traps, and hand traps are kind of critical right now. The correct hand traps are good. It's a reason why Infinite Impermanence is such a great Yu-Gi-Oh card, is because it dodges Triple Tactics Talent. Looking at your opponent's hand and getting rid of other things, especially if you play the correct extenders. If your opponent hand trapped you at the wrong time, you're like, okay, let me see that hand, let me ruin your strategy, and then let me keep playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I may not be able to make the strongest board, but I can still play Yu-Gi-Oh! This card is also very good. Twin Twisters is, oh my god, if it dies, it's a legend. Oh man. Hitting 2 cards is better than 1. Who would have thought? And discarding 1 card from your hand is almost inconsequential for the cards that you get. Really good against back row decks. Flunderies, Outlich. I wish I could think of a couple of more. Burning Abyss, Trap Burning Abyss. Really good against that. And it's a card you should strongly consider. Live Twin, also really good against. This card is not bad. I don't want to put it in, oh no, what are you doing, baby? I don't, because I do think it has a place. I think, because it's good against Sword Soul, right? It's not good against Virtual World. It can be good against Tri Brigade. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put it could be better. It could be better. It's not a bad card. It's not an amazing card. It won't blow your socks off. Crossout Designator is exactly where I thought it would be. It's a card that performs in certain decks. It's trash in a lot of decks. What you really need for Crossout Designator to be able to genuinely thrive is you need to play it in the deck that can gain Crossout Designator full capacity. Like, for example, Flunderies, my boy Tom, he actually said Crossout Designator plus what was it? Crossout Designator plus Gold Sark is full combo. No, it's not. It's not Crossout Designator plus Gold Sark. I think it's actually Crossout Designator plus any bird. My apologies. Crossout Designator plus any Flunderies is full combo, and it stops you from being Ash Blossom, Impermed, and Effect Veiler for Flunderies. So that is an example of where this card can genuinely shine at. Anti-Spell Fragrances better be caught with. It's Imperial Order. It's like Imperial Order in disguise. It's like, if you look at it sideways enough, it's Imperial Order because your opponent's good. It's especially powerful against Virtual World because, again, when they want to put those spells on the board, they can't to be able to activate the Virtual World cards. No Quailoon, no Chigalo. Excuse me. So this could slow them down considerably. It is amazing against Flunderies. I'm starting to realize that deck plays way too many spells. So yeah, it's good at slowing them down. It's amazing against Shaddoll. It's amazing against Despia. So this card's really, really good. Book of Lunar Eclipse is, oh no, what are you doing, baby? Imagine discarding a card from your hand to get negated. To get negated. Discard a card from your hand. Get negated. That's what this card says right now. I'm sorry. I love this card. Same thing with Compulsory Evacuation Device. Single point of interaction. Not really great right now. Crackdown. Exact same thing as Mind Control, except in the form of a trap card. The biggest problem with these 2 cards is that while, yes, they can be good in the correct deck, you take your opponent's monster and then what do you do with them? What do you do with them? I mean, like Orcus. Let me give you an example. This is decent in Orcus because they can take any monster and make Galatea. So I need you guys to think, like, Yu-Gi-Oh cards need to have multiple layers if they're not phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, Forbidden Droplet is phenomenal. We know what it does, but your card needs to have multiple layers in order to be good once it starts to get to performers and below. Compulsory, it bounces your opponent's cards. That's cool, but it doesn't, like you want to be able to bounce your cards to gain your effects too. Same thing with Crackdown and Mind Control. Taking your opponent's card is good, but you need to do something else with it. Same thing with Mystical Space Typhoon. This is a worse Cosmic Cyclone right now because, you know, it just gets rid of the card instead of banishing it. Now, granted, this card could be a little bit better than our Cosmic Cyclone because you don't want to banish your opponent's Sword Soul Blackout because they'll get a free token sometimes. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you Cosmic Cyclone evenly matched and you win the game. So, like, really depends. That's really much all I have to say about Mystical Space Typhoon. It's not a bad card. It's just an oh no, what are you doing, baby card right now. I would not be caught playing this card.
And that is all that I have for the Staples tier list today. Please let me know what you think about this staple tier list. Also, of course, if there are other staple cards that I may not have gotten, then go ahead and let me know down below. I'll be sure to include them in the next Staples tier list. If you want to see more amazing CaliEffect content, be sure to catch me on Twitch, or if you want to stay PG, go ahead and check out these videos as I'll catch you on the next one.